Good morning and welcome back to Morning Express. We're glad you're watching. It is the 22nd day of January, Thursday, now 7:22 a.m. The State of the Nation starts shortly, but before I introduce my guest this morning to you, let's have a look at this story to set the stage for us. And the Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Nkaissery has called on his land's counterpart Charity Ngilu to tell Kenyans who grabbed the Langata Road Primary School playground. Nkaissery spoke as the National Youth Service was yesterday morning deployed to the Langata Primary School to begin the construction of a perimeter wall. Betty Kialo reports.
The National Youth Service recruits began the duty assigned to them in earnest. By 6:30 a.m. Wednesday, earth movers had already taken over, with the personnel beginning to level the playground that made headlines internationally. According to the instructions, they are set to construct a perimeter wall that will secure the school together with its playground. Cabinet Secretary for Lands Charity Ngilu was on site together with the National Lands Commission Chair Mohamed Swazuri. The two said that the land grabbers are still being pursued.
We are aware that I believe the same grabbers, you know, the Airport View Housing Limited, tried also to grab recently some piece of land opposite this one. And therefore they are going to be pursued for sure until we get to the bottom of this.
Schools like these are targeted because they are victims of our process where no schools had been given title deeds. So, but the lack of a title deed of a school like this does not really condemn them to be beggars.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Nkaissery this morning challenged Ngilu to name the person behind the grabbing.
Who are the grabbers, not the owners? We know the owners are the school, but we want to know who tried to grab. And they must come out quite clearly. If really they know the people, they should tell the public.
Nkaissery, who spoke just the day after visiting the school to make apologies over what transpired on Monday, said that it was important for Kenyans to know the truth behind the grabbing.
And I want to tell my colleague, Honorable Ngilu, and the chairman of the Land Commission to ensure that they tell Kenyans by today or by tomorrow.
But a few hours after he made these remarks, the Interior Ministry spokesperson Mwenda Njoka sent a disclaimer to newsrooms indicating that Nkaissery did not mean to give Ngilu an ultimatum, but only intended to make a request as one cabinet secretary ruled to another. On Monday, pupils and activists held demonstrations over the grabbing of their playground. The protests turned chaotic after police tear-gassed the protesters, leaving 3 children injured. Betty Kialo.
All right, and let me now introduce you to my guest this morning on State of the Nation. We are focusing on matters land. Land grab, Langata Primary School, bringing to fore the issues around land in the country. Of course, historical, best to describe the situation around the country in as far as land is concerned, described as an emotive issue as well. Joining me in studio is Lilian Muchungi with the Greenbelt Movement. On my immediate left, next to her is Ken Okoth, who's a Member of Parliament Kibra. We also have John Kihagi, who's a Member of Parliament Naivasha. Also joining us is Ibrahim Wadane, who's the chair of LDGI, which stands for Land Development and Governance Institute. Gentlemen, lady, thank you so much for joining us. And a good morning to you all.
Good morning to you.
I'll start by just throwing it out there. What, in your view, is the state of land in Kenya? Before we even get down to the various issues and areas of concern, Langata Primary School, we saw what has been happening in the past few days. Karen land saga, you remember that, with some legislators being implicated as well. Garissa has had some issues in the recent past, Kajiado as well. Kenyatta University has some of their land in question and some controversy around the same. But in as far as land is concerned, how would you describe the state of that, Ibrahim?
Thank you. In the sector, we are very worried because we thought we had made very good progress as a nation. We got a policy, we got a constitution which anchored the policy, we also got some land laws. So we thought we are onto a phase where we implement these frameworks in the interest of the country. But suddenly, we begin to see very worrying developments like the current saga, even the Lamu, which we are forgetting. And then we are talking about Langata, another very worrying development. Eastland, several schools are threatened. So suddenly we are asking ourselves the question, what is the problem? Because we thought we were going in the right direction, but the results on the ground seem to negate that.
You said suddenly. Do you think this has come up just in the recent past? Had at some point were things fine? Were things ever moving in the right direction as far as land is concerned?
Capture it within the last 3 years. From the time we did elections, you remember there was a bit of a lull as we did the elections. Then the commission came into office, and between the commission and the ministry, there has been a high-level haggling, within which I think they have provided a vacuum at the lower level. And I get the impression that a lot of the groups that were active in the land sector in terms of land grab have been regrouping and getting their entry into the system.
Kehage.
Yeah, I also concur that we've had a problem. I think, I would say since we promulgated the new constitution, because the principles of land management and land administration were very well laid in the National Land Policy of 2009. But most of those principles were watered down because of partisan interest during the promulgation of the constitution. And with devolution also, most issues land have been devolved. And that has tended to create a confusion between the Ministry of Lands, between the National Land Commission and the devolved units, the devolved governments. And in that, the land grabbers who had gone underground during the last regime have now resurfaced full blast, taking advantage of the confusion we've seen, especially between Madam Gilu and Dr. Swazuri. So to me, that lull, the 2 years we've wasted grappling about who should do what in the land sector, has also given entry to these grabbers. And I think the fruits of that can now be seen very clearly in the rampant land grab that we've experienced in the last 4 or so months.
Yeah, Lillian, do you agree that this is a re-emergence we're witnessing, that there was a lull and that now, because of perhaps after the promulgation, as the MP there says, after that and the issues around NLC and the ministry have given room and space for these grabbers?
As much as I want to brief with them, I know that the issue of land in this country is more deeper than we think. I think we are just dealing with symptoms. And it is the high time that we go to the root cause. Because if we don't deal with the root causes and we deal with the symptoms, we're not going anywhere. What we saw just the other day in Langata is just an iceberg. It's just a drop in the ocean. People out there are frustrated. I tell you, we are frustrated out there. But we are happy that this government is trying to do something. I'm talking like that because I know we have been on these issues for many years. We were there when this, the current constitution was being put together. But things are not moving.
So how do you sum up the state of land?
That it is more deeper than we think.
Than we think?
Yes.
Kibra MP.
Yeah.
I think for me, let me just begin by saluting the children of Langata Road Primary School. You children are heroes. You've done something that the adults in this country were not able to do for a long time. And if you think of the example of the Arab Spring, I think the situation of land in Kenya is a catastrophe waiting to happen in all counties, in all communities. School lands are being grabbed, playgrounds have been grabbed, other community assets have been grabbed. And when the citizens are intimidated and afraid, the land grabbers get away with it. So to me, it really is a battle between the forces of the thieves who want to steal public property and the forces of the citizens whose land is being taken away, whose rights are being denied. Will the citizens stand up? And that is why I begin by saluting the children of Langata Road Primary, their parents, their teachers, the leaders, the MCAs, the MP, for standing up. If we had not stood up, all these big people you see on the headlines today would not be talking about that land. They went to Christmas comfortable, they didn't talk about it. They went to the New Year comfortable, they kept silent. And Desmond Tutu told you, in a situation of oppression, if you're silent, you have taken the side of the oppressor. The fact that the president was silent, the cabinet secretary was silent, the governor was silent, the senator was silent, they were taking the side of the oppressors, the thieves who were stealing away our children's land. And our children and their parents took the front line and stood up. And this is the point where it was clear what the battle was. You could not hide it anymore. And now they have chosen to shift sides. Thank you. It's a little, it's good, but you need to do more, because right now there's land at Shelly Moyo School that's being threatened. There's land at Lavington School in Nairobi for children from Kawangware that's being threatened by private developers. Who are these private developers? What benefit do they bring to Kenya? How much taxes do they pay? Why can't they be named? If private developers are creating jobs, creating good investments and amenities, they're paying a lot of taxes and helping Kenya, they should be heroes. We should be celebrating them. We should be putting their face on the front pages. But why we are hiding these private developers tells you they are thieves. They're on the wrong side of history. We must fight them. We must fight them. We must fight them. And it is time for political goodwill all the way from the top to the bottom to show us that we are no longer on the side of the thieves and the private developers who pretend to be, let us take the side of the human beings, the regular citizens who are oppressed at the bottom, and do the right thing. And we don't even need to go back to reinvent the wheel. We have the Ndungu Land Report of 2004. It is 11 years. It has not been implemented. I can list for you all the pieces of land that were contested and were found at the Ndungu Land Report to have been grabbed in my constituency. No action has been taken. Langata Road was the first one we've taken back through citizen action. It should never have to get to that level where children are fighting against the government and the forces that are aligning themselves with the government, where police are showing up, 120 policemen to a school of 600 kids. I wish we had 120 teachers instead of 120 policemen.
Yes, I'll cut you short there. You describe it as a catastrophe waiting to happen. You describe it as an issue that is deeper than we even imagine. This is a story we've talked about for many, many years. The question of now land grabbers, and I'd like our viewers just to invite you to be part of the conversation this morning. We'll have our phone numbers screening on the bottom of your screen. Feel free to call in, participate, share with us your thoughts, and also you can SMS 22155 or leave a comment at Sophia Wanuna. I want to hear from you as well. The MP here mentioned political will. So all along, because there have been the reports that have been done, it's not that the issues are not known. They are discussed in various forums over and over again. So in your opinion, what is it about these issues, and especially today focusing on land grabbing, that allows it to continue thriving? And now, as you described it as a re-emergence, and we are seeing them coming out more bolder, brazen kind of acts we see now. What is it about the Kenya we are in now, the leadership, the citizenry, that allows this to happen?
Thank you. I think we've got some things we can interrogate as a nation. Because when you talk about political will, I'll remind you that, for instance, last year I think the President visited the Ministry of Lands twice. Remember, recently hosted the chair of the commission and the cabinet secretary in State House to whip them to get their act together, and then it took his reprimand to get them running onto the streets. What I want to bring onto the table is, I think one gets a little frustrated when we appreciate that we knew the problem, and we should capture some of those outputs that make it clear that we knew the problem, like the Dongo report and a few other reports. But you want to ask yourself, and maybe this is why we should invite the cabinet secretary and chairman of the commission to think very, very hard about how they are discharging their duty for the country. Because from 2013, when they came into office, they ought to demonstrate what framework they put on the ground to be able to implement the principles that we put on the ground as a country, and show us how they wish to repossess grabbed land, and show us how they wish to protect the existing public land. And I think, Sophia, there are issues that they have not really told us. For instance, we know, and Mheshimiwa, look at, for instance, when we are told that because there is no title to Langata Primary School, it can easily be grabbed. I think that is not something that they should put on the table for Kenya, because even if we are doing the right things as a ministry, you know Langata Primary School, you know its physical extent, you know that plan in the ministry. So show me the reason why anyone who is consulting that plan in the ministry would allocate another person that same piece of land. So that tells you there's an institutional gap, that the information in the ministry is not credible. Then there's the issue of attitude, the culture of the staff, both in the commission and the ministry. I'm saying the commission because They've been in office 2 years now. So what are the changes they have instituted in the business processes or allocating land so that if you went there trying to grab land for Eastleigh Primary School, they are able to easily, one, the culture should be that the officers themselves will feel repulsed by the very attempt from anyone to attempt to grab land. Okay. Then in addition, they ought to be able to quickly pull out the plan and realize on the table that this is a public school.
All right, let me bring in Lillian, because you bring in the issue of the leadership and the ministry officials from the CS. We have the commission as well. And for over 1.5 years, it's actually up to late last year that they buried the hatchet. They treated us to tough wars. So it was a lot of just push and pull between Swazuri and Gilu instead of the matters really at hand for the Wananchi. Do you agree that one of the biggest problems is that in terms of leadership, perhaps confidence has not yet been inspired and that we're not seeing them taking their rightful position?
Yes, and the people who are called the grabbers, so-called grabbers, because I don't even know whether that name exists in the dictionaries of this world. They take advantage. When they see the cabinet secretary and the chairman fighting, they take advantage of that. And don't forget, there are officers who are in the RADS ministry who are still seated there, and they know how to hide things. So they are taking advantage of these two heads fighting, and they are taking advantage of that. So I know very well, unless the chairman of the National Arts Commission and the cabinet secretary works together, there's no way that these issues are going to be stopped.
Okay. Yes. And Kihagi, so even when the CS came to Parliament, when there was a question of whether they should be summoned or not, at the time, the Karen saga was hot, at least in the news, and she wasn't taken to task on that. So in as far as yourselves being in the House, also just not perhaps playing your role fully, do you take some part of that blame?
Yeah, I would say yes and no, because you remember for 2 times, Madam Charity Gilu has been discussed in the House. And at one point, a motion to censure was actually defeated on the floor because we believe there are partisan issues also in politics. Politics is about interest. But I would say that there is a force of land reform in this country that started more than 10 years ago and that will continue. I would say that Parliament is part of that process. But I would also want to say that there's need for some character, some forceful character in trying to push some of these things. You've realized that were it not for the president who came out strongly, the issue of Lamu land was silent, was latent, 500,000 acres. And it took the president's direction for the 2 of them to scamper to Lamu. It also took the president's intervention for them to do what they did in Langata. So we are saying political will is there. In Parliament we are there. I will not say that we've performed very well, because even as you've seen the last 1 week, I have not seen my chairman, the chairman of the Parliamentary Committee on Land, comment on this. I have not seen that committee visit Langata. So I would say also Parliament also is not very, very active on this matter, especially the Lands Committee. But you also remember the Langata, the current land saga also almost divided our committee in lands, because we are feeling that somewhere, someone is not doing their work right. And we are about to kick out.
So you are divided along what?
Along how we should handle that, because some people want to silence the RAD committee. They don't want the RAD committee to take the front side of this. And we are saying going forward, even as I believe, because personally I believe Charity Gilu is the right character, has the right character to ensure that there is land reform in this country. She has the abrasiveness, she has the intention, but she also needs to be oversighted by Parliament. We cannot allow, because we've seen now Gilu and Swazuri are working very closely. You saw them yesterday together. Who is going to oversight them? We are saying Parliament of Kenya, and especially the Departmental Committee on Lands, has to be active on this matter. Because I can tell you, Sophia, I have two court cases in Nakuru.
And we will come to your situation in Nakuru.
Yeah, I'm saying I want to bring the issue of the Parliament in this, because one of them, I took the Parliamentary Land Committee to Naivasha to go and look at the access corridors to Lake Naivasha. We all know Lake Naivasha is closed. People cannot enter. A person like you cannot enter.
Yes.
And one of those Parliament refused, because I was sued because of taking the Parliamentary Committee there. And I was sued individually. And that case is almost collapsing because Parliament refused to be enjoined in that case as the one that said that we are on this matter as a Parliament, and we want to ensure that there is fairness on the land sector in Kenya.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Let's finish on the leadership, and I'll come to you, of course, because Star Today reporting that the minister or the CS Lands is saying that if she's pushed or pressed hard enough by the president, she will name who this grabber is. So suggesting that she already does know who this person is, and it's a question everybody has been asking, who's the grabber? On the other hand, up until the protest, which you were part of, the NLC chair and herself were saying investigations are ongoing to ascertain what really is the issue here. But after the protest, they come out and say the land squarely belongs to the Langata Primary School. So it appears to have been very quick, hastened investigations thereafter, after the sad and unfortunate scenarios we saw there. Do you share his opinion that this is the person heading the Lands Ministry, that she inspires confidence that she's doing it the right way, or is she apparently or seemingly being caught always one step back in as far as these issues are concerned?
I am completely appalled by that headline in the Star. If the story really is true, that Cabinet Secretary for Lands has threatened, if pushed, to name, that she will name then quit, that tells you there's a serious problem in government, and we need to go then look above at whose pleasure does she serve. Once your president has told you to name, and once a cabinet colleague in charge of security has invited you to name, what interest does she have in not naming? It is her duty. She's the custodian of the records in the Lands Ministry. The custodian of corporate records is the Attorney General. So unless the Attorney General and the Cabinet Secretary have something to hide, they should tell us. Let me put it for you, though, in a different way. What this matters for Kenya, why this matters. We're trying to set a Kenya where you inspire confidence that you can invest, your property will be protected, your title deeds and government records are actually legitimate, and not forgeries will be contested on the same level. When you see a situation such as Langata Road Primary School and supposed private developer claims they have documents they can take to the county government and get permission to fence off a school playground, it makes you wonder, is Kenya a place you can do business seriously? And if you look at the images of police being used, it's a question of institutions and cultures. How do we run this country? When you look at a situation where an unnamed, faceless private grabber can hire more than 120 police and have them deployed with dogs and riot gear and vehicles and weapons at a school by 6 o'clock in the morning when children have not shown up yet, it tells you there is something wrong. So I think I would invite the president, I'd really call on the president, think critically about these things. There's people who are working for you that are letting you down. There's people in the police forces who think they can allow themselves to be hired to act on private interests rather than going to protect the school children. They were there to protect the fence and whoever had paid them to come protect that fence. So I think the president needs to step up in some way, or else it's tarnishing his image. And he's been in office 2 years down. The Kenyan government system and Kenyan history goes to 4 administrations: the first Kenyatta administration, the Moi administration, the Kibaki administration, and now the Uhuru administration. Those first 3 failed. They created the problem. They never solved it. The question is, will the Uhuru administration solve the problem, or will it be part of continuing the problem? Whether it is his land secretary, whatever excuses, whether it's forces in the, within the land ministry and not the minister herself that are undermining and sabotaging the image he wants to create of Kenya as a destination for investment, local and foreign investment. I think the president is being sabotaged and he needs to crack the whip. Heads need to roll. He just needs to threaten, because if he just threatens the whole time and doesn't take the action, people will wonder. Then you leave it to a point where now it's children. It's children who can go out and challenge, and then you have this moral gap of where children under the age of 15 are fighting government forces. That the president needs to look at very seriously.
Ibrahim, we saw the Nairobi County Governor, Evans Kidero, pretty much come to the defense of his officials in approving this perimeter wall being put up at the Langata school, that it's fake documentation that was used to allow for the same to happen. And many of these controversies we've seen around land have been, in essence, having multiple people claiming ownership of one piece of land. We saw the same happening in Karen. How do you begin to solve and sort out such a mess in terms of many people each coming in and saying, I have this title deed, I have rights to this land, another one comes and says the same? Are we going to completely lose confidence in the documents and certificates and all that we get from the ministry?
Allow me to say first of all, Sophia, let me appreciate what Mheshimiwa Kihagi is putting on the table. That Parliament probably has been dithering on the matter of oversight in the land sector.
Okay.
And if Parliament as a political leadership organ did more, probably a bit of what we are saying wouldn't have got where we are. Then let me also put on the table the fact that from our history, if you look at the history of land allocation and particularly where it's skewed, there has been a partnership, either a partnership or you call it pressure from a political platform on the officers in the Ministry of Lands. Either partnership direct where both are gaining, or pressure from above where political forces are putting pressure on the officers in the ministry to allocate land. And I want to respond to what you've asked through this statement. That one, I think it's high time for this country to begin to show that there is punitive action taken against people who are associated with irregular allocation, be they political or technical. Then also indicate that the officers in the Ministry of Lands will have to appreciate going forward that the past allowed them a lot of leeway, but the future is going to be very harsh on them. So they really got to get their act together in terms of technical, institutional integrity. How they protect the land information within their custody, and that's where that matter of state comes into play. What kind of information they are keeping on their desk, and we pay them so that they first of all keep information which has integrity. Then beyond that, they should be able to raise the bar and protect public interest when there is pressure from a politician. And right now, I've got this feeling that unless we are very careful, we are going to get a situation whereby if there has been an interplay between political forces and technical forces in the institution, then there can be a very, very, very easy attempt to cover up this thing. But if we begin as a country to ensure that there is a price paid by political forces if they are intervening in the allocation processes, and there's a price paid by technical officers who begin to be compromised by political forces, then I think the future is going to be a little better for this country. But the surface issues we are discussing here about what we see out there will not go unless we divorce political pressure from the land allocation process and we have integrity of information and integrity of the individual officers who deal with our institutions.
Yeah, because Lillian, we saw the cleaning up of the registry, and many Kenyans hoped this then would, be an indicator of a new chapter in as far as land matters is concerned.
Yeah.
But as Ibrahim says, this is deeper also, as you mentioned earlier, than we think, and as far as if in fact it is this political forces, powerful forces as well, in cahoots with technical support in the ministry, then who becomes the hope for Kenyans? How will this ever be sorted out? Because the cover-ups then will always carry the day.
I think the hope for Kenyans today is if the two heads can work together. These issues of things in this country being taken politically and being politicized. It's very wrong for us to be doing politics in everything that we try to do on everything that we do in this country. If the cabinet secretary and the chairman, Lands Commission, Mr. Zwazuri, are really working together, and with the powers that they have been given by our current constitution and other documents in this country, I know we would not be seated in this place today. But because of the gap that was there before, I personally, I have dealt with Madam Giru when she was not a cabinet minister, when she was not a minister, when we were trying to protect this parcel of land that is in Westlands, opposite Westgate. And I remember in those days that we were beaten up from the same site. And yesterday when we went on the same site, when we had those earth movers bringing down the fence yesterday, there was nobody who came near us, because both of them, Kenyans also are looking at their leaders. Both of them, the cabinet secretary and the chair of the National Land Commission, were there studying with the community, with the public. And we did what we did yesterday because both of them were seen by the public doing what they are supposed to do. But when you get one of them is doing the other and the other one is saying the other way, I think Kenyans are going to lose credibility on them. And we are calling on them, both of them, to work together. I know if they work together, they have powers. They can be able to take this country very far. We don't have to wait for the head of state to stand and give statements when they are there, both of them.
Forces more powerful than them who are behind these issues of land and cases of land.
And that is why they need support from the top.
I want to say, Sophie, I think me and Ibrahim, once we are members of the land sector, non-state actors, during the reform, the constitution formulation, the national land policy. And it's like the non-state actors felt like with the promulgation of the constitution, the work had been done. And I want to say this because last financial year, we gave 2 billion shillings for the work of the enactment or starting the land information management system in this country as a subset of the national spatial data infrastructure. This is an information system that at the click of the button, you'll be knowing who owns what land, where does he stay, when did he last pay his rates and all that. This process had been frustrated, and even that money, the 2 billion that we gave to the Ministry of Lands to work jointly with the National Land Commission, we are not even told how it was spent. We are saying there is a deliberate effort by players, both in the political, in the business, and also in the executive sector, to ensure that we don't have a land information management system in Kenya, so that we don't know who owns what. And that's why even Ngilu would say that I don't know who owns that land, because for you to get information as who is the proprietor of this land, you have to go from office to office, you have to beg. So land information management system is a key issue in solving some of the problems we are having. The private sector, the non-state actors, the NGOs, the civil society also have to know that they have a role to ensure that we move forward, because as he's saying, some of these forces are very powerful. Yeah.
All right, we'll continue with this discussion. Let's take some of these calls coming through. One is Wilson. Wilson, good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for watching and for calling in this morning. What are your thoughts on the discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, we're listening.
Hello. Yes, can I continue?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, I've seen this Langata, the land which was grabbed in Langata Primary School. There is a lot of hypocrisy, because these people, they knew what was going on, they never took any step. Now, if the permanent the cabinet secretary wants to know all over Kenya how many lands have been grabbed, later come out and tell the Kenyans he wants the list. He will be told a lot of lands which have been grabbed all over Kenya, so that he can work upon it.
Okay. So a lot of land, you say, has been grabbed around the country. Thank you, sir, for your thoughts this morning. All right. We also have on the line Betty. Betty, good morning.
Good morning, madam. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for calling. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I'm happy that KTN is airing this morning. It is one channel that has really come up to really point out the issues of this country from a very realistic point. I want to say this. The CS and the chairman of Land Commission cannot name the person. As Gilu says, I know Gilu as a very outgoing person. Gilu would name the person at a twinkle of an eye. But there's something that is holding her. And she should know that her job is at stake if she does not name the grabber of the Langata land. That is one. Two, I want to tell you that the county, whoever is supposed to give title deeds to school land, to safeguard the school land, should give the title deed as soon as this morning or yesterday, because they are at stake. And I want to also request to the president of this nation that for sanity to be restored on land issues, he should be able to give a guideline on when he calls the CS on like Gilu. Gilu is very good, but I know that he's held by a very small thing to name the grabber of this land. And I want to bring to your notice as a channel that land for schools has been grabbed. Ngara Girls is one, Riverside, where we have the Count Girls down. You can see the mosque being built. We gave the map, we gave everything, and we were assured that the land is for the school. Surprisingly, the chairman everybody, all the leadership of the county came and said the land where the students were planting, were doing agriculture was for the mosque. I was so shocked.
All right.
So this issue must be looked at from a larger perspective by the administration of this country.
Okay, thank you very much, Betty. Thank you for your thoughts. Finally, let's talk with Godfrey calling us from Nakuru. Godfrey, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Great. Thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, in this issue of land saga in Langata, I would want to look at a bigger picture, which I'm seeing happening in this country. There's a systematic failure of the system by the government deliberately. Look at the issue of land. Media now we are hearing this warning of corruption, election. The list is endless. Let me now come back on this issue of land. This issue of land, they said no who the first-place land grabber is. And it is a common knowledge in the street. I would not like to name the person, but it is known. The question is asking, which is very simple, which is what the head of state and the other office to answer. Why say the headmaster of the teacher, where was the headmaster of the school? And where was the teachers allowed to do that? Why are we not being told who is the brother of this land? We need to know. Because we know now, Lamu has a problem, Kenya University has a problem, Ngoma we have it, Karen has a problem. Where is the government? Why are you making Kenya's poor? Why are you exporting jobs instead of filling the jobs locally? We are killing our people. And these people are, you cannot just you have a big house and the poor people around you.
Okay.
They come for you. Anyway, that's the question. Let the same government clearly. Ngilu is a small bit. The state knows the team, what you are doing. Thank you.
All right, Godfrey, clearly they're expressing your frustration, which is shared by many across the country. I mean, at the end of the day, when there's so many cases seemingly repeated, no lessons being learned, it gets frustrating, gets to a point, Member of Parliament, where everyone wonders, where is the government? I mean, we cannot talk about reforms and with same story, different cast, same script.
Sophie, I had mentioned to you before, the first Kenyatta government failed, was part of the problem. The Moi government failed, the Kibaki government failed. Will the Uhuru government be the government that finally starts making changes, even in a small way? Let us start with the school properties, because to me, school land is sacred, the place where we educate our next generation, the people who will help us to achieve Vision 2030. That's very important. Will the Uhuru government make a commitment to issue land title deeds to all schools in the next 30 days and claim that credit? It will be good for them politically, it will be good for their legacy forever, it will be good for our education sector. Where is the Cabinet Secretary for Education? The Permanent Secretary for Education spoke very well yesterday. I would love to hear that same message and commitment from the Cabinet Secretary for Education. So I think let us start even in a small way. Let us do a first step with schools. We saw the government, when it was serious and had the political will, went to Kwale, went to Kilifi, went to Lami and issued over 50,000 title deeds. There is about 9,000 to 10,000 schools in Kenya. The government, if it is serious, within 30 days can follow up and give all those schools allotment. Let us say, what first step have we taken? Have we shown the Uhuru government to be different from the first three governments? Are they starting to make a change? That I think, giving them a solution even in a small area. Let us find, can we start with the school land and protect those and show that they're sacred and they're titled and they're properly protected for first starters.
Okay. Before we look at some of those messages also that are coming through, I want to come back to you, Kihagi, because Naivasha, which you alluded to earlier, a lot of issues have been seen there. There was a protest, some demonstration the other day against you. And your electorate there accusing you that prior to you being elected during the campaigns, you promised that they would get title deeds. And my question then becomes, are we seeing also yourselves, politicians, using land as a dangling carrot, to get all this political support, at the end of the day knowing that sometimes you cannot deliver, and if you deliver, then it means cutting corners here and there just to make sure you get a re-election?
Yeah, I think you are right, and that there are quite a number of land issues in Naivasha, and I'm in thick of all of them. because I promised the people of Naivasha, I'm a surveyor, I'm a licensed surveyor, I'm a registered physical planner, licensed to practice in this country. And I told them that I know their problems on land, and we are going to solve them. I also know that I'm involved in quite a number of land grabbing issues. I think I have about 5 of them that I'm...
that you've been accused?
No, I'm pursuing.
Oh,
I'm pursuing the
not
grabbers.
that you have grabbed.
Yeah, first of all, when I was elected, the grabbers, you know, we have a culture in this country when you call someone thief, he also says thief, and you think now he's not the thief. What I did, Sophie, is as early as 2013, September, I told the National Land Commission that the land that was set aside for Naivasha Stadium had been grabbed. And I went there, I called the National Land Commission Vice Chair, I called the Governor of Nakuru, and together we used CDF money to fence off that land. Unfortunately, some people had grabbed that land, some people have built on that land, and we fenced it off. They took me to court, and even today the court case is still going on. You also know that I took the Parliamentary Land Committee there, and we opened a few land corridors that goes to the lake. That case is still in court. In fact, if you saw last Thursday but one, I spent the whole day with the CID in Naivasha recording statements because the members of public, the fishermen, and all that went and burned the gate because some person or the proprietor went on 24th of December, the eve of Christmas, and got a court order to go and block the corridor. The Wananchi were not happy. They went and burned the gate, and for that I was accused of incitement. I spent the whole of the last Thursday but one with the CID in Naivasha recording that. You also know there's a Ngate land issue, which is very emotive, and for which even the president and the deputy president one day had to go there because of the forceful eviction that happened there. I have been pursuing that case vigorously until 6 times now the community has been refused to meet again. Yesterday, the district security committee met, and they said even now Ngate people cannot meet because their land has been sold to Kengen. 505 million cannot be accounted for. 3,000 acres of poor Wananchi has been grabbed. Can you tell you, those people have been coming to Harambee House. They've come there to protest twice. They've gone to State House to protest twice. They've been beaten away by the security forces. They are crying for justice. We've held innumerable meetings with them. I've even talked to the president, I've talked to the deputy president, and nobody is giving these people audience. We are saying those are the forces that are trying to fight me. And when I say I know who are the grabbers here, powerful forces are sponsoring these people. 2 of them are MCAs. One is the leader of majority in Nakuru County, and he has vowed that he's going to be the next MP for Naivasha. He has land issues in Longonot. We know that for sure. When he was councillor there, he has double allocations. One of the other MCAs, who is the chairman of implementation committee at the county, instead of coming and help me with solving the land issues in Naivasha, he has one of his plots is in the stadium, because he was also a councillor in the former municipal council of Naivasha.
So you're saying you've been unable to deliver on your promise to give title
No,
deeds
I'm not
to
saying
your
that.
people?
I'm saying we are working on the issue of title deeds in Naivasha. In fact, I've given to the National Land Commission 1,200 letters of allotment for them to review and renew for my people so that now title deeds can be processed. That process is still going on because the people of Naivasha, some of us have said, we bought these titles, these lands as allotment letters. Now they've been sold to the 3rd generation. So there's a process of verification. Who is the current? Should we give title in the initial allottee's name, or should we renew that? So the National Land Commission, and this we have evidence, is in the process of reviewing all those grants and seeing if letters of allotment have to be renewed. Because, Sophie, you know, a letter of allotment is valid for 30 days. After that, it expires. So when we are doing that, and you know we have collected 1,200 letters of allotment, these same councillors, former MCAs, former councillors, now have taken advantage of this because they've been sponsored by those people, those land grabbers that I'm fighting. And they've been told, can you now grab and brand Kihagi as a land grabber?
Well, you're making some very strong allegations, which unfortunately we do not have those you're accusing to give their side of the story.
But the media, the same media also showed them, saying that I've grabbed land, I've been given money, and I was not called to defend myself.
Well,
I went there. I went to that meeting so that I could, those people who had allegations against me could speak, and I challenged them. whoever has given money can he speak.
Well, this is what one of your area residents is saying, sir.
Yes.
Says Honorable Kehagi and other leaders in Naivasha must dialogue and stop washing their dirty linen in social media and on television. Land issues in Naivasha are very rife. That's Isaac. Because at the end of the day, the unfortunate thing sometimes when you hear one story from one side, you believe it, you're like, yes, that's it. Then you hear the other side and get confused. So for them, and I think it's the thing to call for is dialogue and make sure this somehow there's a resolution to it, because at the end of it all, we cannot keep having this leader saying this and the other. Don't you agree, Ibrahim?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Because
that's...
But again, Sophie, when people have political interest, when people have already started campaigning for political posts, it's very difficult to have dialogue.
But didn't you use the same land to campaign? You also asked for the, for the votes based on land. So your opponents are also using the same trick or,
what
strategy.
What you are saying is these are leaders. Instead of a leader criticizing the other, a leader should go in the Nakuru County. Land subdivision and all that is a devolved function. It's at the county level. So it's ridiculous for us to see MCAs, especially the leader of majority, instead of sorting it with the land department at their section, because like in Kayole area, let me tell you, the major problem is planning, because Kayole is like an informal settlement. You cannot have a title deed the way it was subdivided. So the county government of Nakuru has refused to approve some of those plans because there are no roads, there are no drainage way leaves and all that. They cannot approve it the way it is. So it's for the MCAs to agitate and ensure that the county government of Nakuru approves those plans even before title deeds are given to those people. But you are right that they should come. The right way, if they got grievances, the right way would have been for them, instead of calling for demonstrations and protests, come and ask Kehagi, what is the problem here? Where are you on this matter?
Or you call them for a sit down.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I want to say something. That when the commission came in, and when we supported the commission as the public, we thought that the commission and the ministry are going to work together and come up with a procedure that is going to protect all the public land in this country. Because, like for me, I'm not a member of parliament. I know you're a member of parliament, he is also a member of parliament. And they're supporting their own areas. But we thought that the two bodies are going to come up with a structure that is going to help the public into protecting. Because I tell you, they will not be able to protect those lands. They will only protect those lands because they are currently sitting on those positions. Okay? And those others who are willing to come and sit on those positions, they will be doing the same. But we thought that when the two heads come together, they will give us a procedure. They will come up with a procedure which will be shared with the public so that these properties or these lands can be left to the public to protect. Because one day, he will not be the member of parliament for Naivasha. He will not be the member of parliament for Langata. Now he's talking as the member of Langata. The other one will come in after 5 years. We wanted the public to be given the mandate to protect their land because it is their land.
As you come and let's...
but what they have done now is the politics in this country has been put in place in a way that the sitting member of parliament, the sitting government, the sitting who is using the public property to do campaign.
Yeah,
which is very wrong. But we wanted the two bodies to come together and come with a structure that is going to be given to the public so that the public can be left to protect their land.
Okay, my name is Ogendo, an SMS here reads, and I wanted to say that Hegel once had it that when people fight, then there is growth within a system. It is upon this that I support the differences between NLC and the CS Ngilu, because at least in some way we as the public can benefit with information. But once they begin to work together, then the concealing of land grabbers will be even worse. Your thoughts, Ken, as you comment?
I just think the NLC has its mandate. They should execute it. It's a shame that for 2 years they have failed to execute it. And they've had mistakes. I hope they'll catch up to speed and do their part. I think when people talk here about campaigning as if it is a bad thing, campaigning is not a bad thing. It's not a dirty word. Campaigning is positive. It's a process.
How you're campaigning.
It is a process through which we
How
engage.
is the issue?
We engage the citizens who
by promising them
us.
what?
Yes, by highlighting the issues we care about. In my case, I care about education as priority number one. And we tell the people, and I can tell you now, I'm not interested in to wait until 2017. I am demanding right now of the Land Committee, of the Education Committee, of the National Land Commission, the Cabinet Secretary for Land, Cabinet Secretary for Education, give all head teachers and all school committees their title deeds.
Yeah, because it was
within
worrying
30
to
days.
see
So it's not a
Swazuri
campaign
say
issue for
that
me. It's a
schools
promise
don't
I
have
made.
titles.
I'm fighting for to fulfill. And if any grabber dares to take school land anywhere in Kenya, I am willing to go fight for it the same way we fought for the land on Monday and got back the land for the children of Langata Road Primary School. So if there is any head teacher out there, if there is any parent committee out there that your school land has been grabbed, your DC is dithering, your governor is dithering, call me. We will come fight for your land.
Okay. Ibrahim, we had Mheshimiwa talking about the land information management systems, and this is what Ngilu appeared to be very keen on, ensuring that the systems work right. Taking a while. In your opinion, what is it that, especially for the minister and the NLC chair, because as you talk about the schools and no titles, the chair did say that it is worrying, but he confessed and considered that most schools actually don't have these titles. So this, you wonder what else is happening in other schools that the media has not perhaps been able to highlight the issues.
Langata Road Primary School has been promised its title deed. For the first time, they're going to get the title deed within 7 days.
Okay.
They have waited since 1975, before I was born. Finally, because we knocked down that fence and they used tear gas on the children and became a national issue, they are getting their title deed.
But for the many that will not have that opportunity to have
allow me first of all to appreciate what Mheshimiwa does and request, appeal to all leaders, political leaders in the country, to be watchdogs for public land within the country. It would help a great deal. But beyond that, Sophie, two things keep popping up here, the National Land Information Management System and titling. Now, even from a stakeholder perspective, even from our institute, we've kept on telling the ministry that we think the priority issue for this country is to ensure that all records are computerized, and thereafter we then develop a comprehensive land information management system. Then two, ensure that we scale up titling so that institutions and communities and individuals who live on places which are indeed theirs, not disputed, get titles so that they can then develop and also prop up the economy of this country. So I think we are speaking in saying only that we look at different ends of it, that we need to protect so that the visible grabbing can be deterred. And then from an institutional perspective, let us scale up titling, let us scale up the development of a computerized system. And then finally, Sophie, I think I want to request the Cabinet Secretary and the chair of the National Land Commission. You see what they've done lately? Maybe good in the public eye, but it's ad hoc. For how long can they keep on running to sites that have a problem? So they need to institutionalize what they are doing, and beyond that, work on the institutional culture of the officers working in the ministry, in the head office, and in the county offices, because therein lies the problem. What is their attitude towards protecting public land and the very, very, very national good, which is land information in this country?
Okay, I'll finish with the two of you gentlemen. On one hand, you are in the Lands Committee in Parliament. You expressed dissatisfaction with the fact that your chair has not even commented on this issue. You've had your own squabbles in as far as some of these situations you've seen play out should be handled. What then becomes your commitment, speaking to Kenyans who are watching this morning, and as far as a committee, people elected by Kenyans, is it you're going to do to play your role in that committee, in the National Assembly, to move this forward?
Yeah, thank you, Sophie. I comment is even as I head to Naivasha as the host for the Jubilee Alliance parliamentary group, that we are going to meet from today evening, and for the next 3 days we are going to be there. And one of the critical things we are going to look at is our leadership in Parliament. How are we going to manage that we are able to handle these emerging challenges, because we believe 2 years down the line it's time for us to also reevaluate ourselves and what is hindering us in this. You've seen that now we are moving towards the Jubilee Alliance Party, so that the power plays that come into who should be chairman, and must he come from a certain party within that committee, because you find when you try to do changes in the leadership of a parliamentary committee, you have to know that's a preserve of such a party. So if you are from this party, you cannot take leadership of that parliamentary committee. So Ken will tell you it can be very frustrating at times, because if you know Ken is the right person to chair a certain committee, but because he comes from CORD, he cannot be into it. We are going to look at these, all these and say, even
they
the
got in
dialogue,
Kaiseri from CORD to chair security.
even the dialogue we are talking about between maybe CORD and Jubilee,
Yeah.
are these some of the issues? Because at some point it ceases to matter whether you are CORD or whether you are Jubilee. On matters of education, we
are
are
you suggesting you think there's a land expert in the other wing that would be good to bring into government?
Yeah, of
Just
course.
to clarify.
Of course, we've seen us taking Major Kaiseri from ODM.
Well, for Kaiseri, some have
making him the
with
CS.
his politics at heart were Jubilee. It's just that on paper.
Not necessarily. You'll be surprised with Ken. Actually, the first problem we solved as the lands committee, and Ken will tell you here, is the problem of land in Kibra. He brought that issue to us as a land committee, and we at Madam Gilu, through Madam Gilu, were able to solve his problem. So we are saying, when it comes to parliamentary committee issues now, we are saying we don't work like Jubilee or CORD. And Ken will tell you here, he has never been isolated because he's a member of CORD. The people of Kibra constituency are served just like the people of Naivasha, in spite of their member being a CORD member. So we are saying as parliament, we are going to evaluate ourselves and see where we need to refocus, even as we do changes in the parliamentary committees. But what I can assure Kenyans is that we are very vibrant and we are very concerned.
No, you're not yet vibrant.
Maybe
you're concerned, but we're not seeing the vibrance. Maybe
it's only that this thing also happened when Parliament was in recess. Because, you know, we are still in recess and we are not in Nairobi. Most of our members are scattered.
That's an excuse.
Are scattered all over.
You should not even be saying that right now.
No, I'm talking for a fact because they also.
Yes, you are on recess, but that should not make everything run to a halt. The country still runs. The issues are still there. Surely they can be. You can talk about.
Remember, I started by saying that first, I'm not convinced that we've handled it the best way.
Okay.
But I'm saying we are going to when we
going
come back. Going forward, we are going to be more vibrant. And we are going to ensure that we take this matter of land head on. And if it means making changes in the Parliamentary Lands Committee, we are going to do that. And we know we are going to get the support of the President, the Deputy, and the entire government.
Finally, to you, Member of Parliament Kibra, CORD had the issue of land in the referendum, which appears to have lost steam. But that aside, what is it also as the opposition looking at this issue would you bring to the table in as far as, yes, your role is to keep the government in check, but will always be reactionary just when this happens, come out and say this is not acceptable, this cannot be done, or will we see more from that side?
Well, I've been giving you all morning a proposal, and I hope the people who are listening are listening. Let us, for instance, in the next 30 days, solve the land crisis in the education sector. Give every of the 10,000 schools in Kenya its land title deed within the next 30 days. That's a proposal I'm giving as a patriotic Kenya. I'm a member of the opposition, but it is a good idea. Let it be implemented, whether it comes from me or whatever.
Is land still part of the referendum push? If
I thought you were asking me about the current issues.
Both.
The referendum issues will be tackled. We are at the big stage where the bill has been drafted. The final
is the land still part of it, the land question?
And it will be submitted, and it's comprehensive land reform and management systems. These are like 5 different issues on the CORD referendum call, and the bill as it's drafted, it's going to go to the IEBC, and they'll verify the signatures. Then we start the process of setting up when we will have the referendum. But the push is on there.
Is on.
Yes.
Okay, finally from you, Lillian, your final thoughts?
Urgently, let the government come with structures, proper structures, on how the communities are going to be the caretakers of their own public lands. May they be schools, may they be playgrounds, may they be forests, may they be riversides. Because all these areas are public lands and they're supposed to be protected. Let the government come up with a structure that the public can be able to say, yes, we own this.
Okay. Yes. Lillian Muchungi, who's from the Green Belt Movement, also kind of course Member of Parliament Kibra, John Kihagi, Member of Parliament Naivasha, and Ibrahim Wadani, who's the chair of LDGI. Thank you, ladies, gentlemen, for being with us on State of the Nation this morning. And that is what guest thoughts are in as far as some of those issues and as far as land is concerned. Thank you so much for staying with us, for your calls, for your SMSs, which we'll be sampling as well later on the show. But do stay with Morning Express, because coming up shortly is my colleague Michael. He's talking about financial management, and he tells me that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That's what that saying goes like, yeah? So stay with us for that conversation.